it's hot in here. When we built Willie B. Kennedy Apartments, did we forget the air conditioner? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Willie B. Kennedy Apartments in the beautiful Western Addition community, right next to Rosa Parks, a.k.a. the Pink Palace, right across the street from Plaza East, a.k.a. OC, Out of Control Projects, where I grew up, born and raised in this community, and it is so good to be home. Some of you remember when we took this used to be parking lot, which was an underutilized site in this community, and decided that we were going to build 98 new senior units for this community. And many of you remember the challenges that have existed for far too long, where when we would build affordable housing in the Western Addition, we would apply for the affordable housing in the Western Addition, and hardly anyone from the Western Addition would get access to those units. And I am so proud of the work that we did to pass neighborhood preference legislation to make sure that 40% of the units that are built in the community go to the people in the community, and this was the first project to use neighborhood preference. Yes, I had to fly to DC. That was hard work. But we made it happen, and I want to thank all of the incredible people that are joining us today. Now, we know that this city has not done its part in building more affordable housing, and we know that we have to get creative. We need to find opportunities. Yes, it's about money, but it's also about cutting back the bureaucratic red tape that make it difficult to build affordable housing in the first place. And yes, we need to fund it. Now, today we are here for a great announcement, and I'm so happy to be here with so many community members, including Reverend Arnold Townsend, Supervisor Shaman Walton, and President of the Board of Supervisors, Norman Yee, your Supervisor, Valley Brown, Supervisor Catherine Stephanie, and Supervisor Asha Safai. Today, along with my co-chair, my partner, President of the Board of Supervisors, Norman Yee, we are here to announce the biggest housing bond in the city's history, a $500 million housing bond for affordable housing in the city and county of San Francisco. And to the small property owners throughout San Francisco, this will not raise property taxes. We are doing this in a very responsible way. Now, to craft this bond and to build support for it, President Yee and I convened a working group that started back in March. We know that passing this bond and getting the 2/3 vote that we need will take hard work, and our community co-chairs have led this effort to make this happen. I want to acknowledge our community co-chairs at this time for their hard work in helping to craft this particular bond, starting with Malcolm Young. Thank you so much. Tamika Moss, Myrna Melgar, and Annie Chung. You know, we couldn't have put together a better group of people who have dedicated their lives and their careers to addressing a lot of the inequities, especially around housing and creating more affordable housing for so many communities in San Francisco. So I'm grateful for their service. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about what we plan to do with this bond, which is going to be introduced at the Board of Supervisors today. We need about 8 votes, and we have 2, 4, 5 votes here so far. So we got to get on the phone and get to some of those other supervisors. We know that one of our highest priorities is addressing low-income housing and making sure that people who fit within the low-income category receive access to affordable housing. This bond will allocate about $210 million to the construction, the acquisition, and the rehabilitation of permanently affordable rental housing units, specifically with families at about an 80% area median income and below. This will help speed up construction on those projects that are 100% affordable projects, and we estimate that this will provide 1,000 new affordable apartments within the next 4 years. $10 million of this bond will be allocated to new supportive housing sites for formerly homeless residents. While we know we need to continue to expand our navigation centers to help our unsheltered residents off the streets, we also need homes for people so that they can exit homelessness. So that's why this is so important. And one of the things that you all know I am so committed to is the residents who are in public housing. As someone who unfortunately had to live in some of the most, terrible conditions for over 20 years of my life, I will always make sure that the residents of public housing are prioritized. In this bond, we have allocated $150 million to repair and rebuild public housing in San Francisco. Now, we know that the rental assistance demonstration, the RAD program, has rehabilitated more than 2,600 units of public housing throughout San Francisco, but we need more. And this will help address what we know are challenges in places like Potrero Hill and Sunnydale, which I know Supervisor Walton is so excited about. We also know that preserving our public housing, we need to really focus on, those. In order to preserve our affordable housing stock, we also have to remember that there are a lot of folks, especially a lot of seniors, who live in rent-controlled apartments. And so one of the great programs we have in the city is when one of those buildings, which consist of low-income residents, goes on the market to be sold, and those folks face the possibility of losing the only homes that they have, we have a small sites acquisition program to purchase those particular buildings so that we can protect the tenants in those facilities. So this bond will allocate $30 million to acquiring rental housing, and that way we protect current residents that would be at risk of rent increases, and they may be forced out of their homes, and I'm really excited about that. Now, we also know that there are populations of people who may not qualify for affordable housing, but they don't make enough to afford market rate housing, and so we can't forget our middle income residents. So an additional $20 million will go towards helping middle income individuals and families purchase affordable housing, including our first time home buyers assistance program and providing financial assistance to teachers for closing costs and other home ownership expenses. Finally, we have to take care of our seniors, and that's why we're here at Rosa Parks today. Some of you know how very sensitive I am about taking care of our senior community. My grandmother raised me, and I was so grateful that, I was able to help to take care of her. But there are so many seniors who may not have family members and support to help take care of them, and so we as a city, we have to do better. This bond will provide $90 million to create and acquire affordable housing for our seniors so that we can not only build more projects like Willie B. Kennedy Apartments, but we also need to protect seniors in their homes in the first place so they can age in dignity. We chose these specific priorities based on the inputs of over 100 housing experts. We listened to managers of public housing, people who help place formerly homeless residents into supportive housing, people who build affordable housing, tenants, homeowners, community members. This was truly a community-led effort, and I am so grateful to President Yee for his leadership as well as our community co-chairs who I mentioned earlier today. We all know that housing is too expensive in this city, and the income inequality gap continues to grow. And it is time that we are bold and brave about the kinds of investments we need to make that actually impact the people in this city who are actually struggling to hold on to live here. I don't want San Francisco to continue to be what I experienced growing up, a place that when we grew up, as I said, right across the street where they built where I used to live, where it was the old Plaza East, they tore down 300 units and built 200 units, so 100 families weren't coming back to Plaza East. We're not doing business as usual in this city. We're changing how we do affordable housing in San Francisco. And what that means is making sure that people who grow up in this city have really a shot of being able to afford to live here. It starts now. It starts today. It starts with getting more affordable housing built. So I want to thank all of you for your support. This will not be an easy thing to do. This ballot measure will need to go through the Board of Supervisors. It will need to go to the voters. It will need 2/3 vote. So I'm going to be counting on all of you to make sure you're registered, to make sure you're voting, to make sure you're turning out so that your vote counts in San Francisco. Because we need to make sure that even though maybe many of us have housing security, there are so many people out there who don't. And how we create a more equitable San Francisco is making sure that at a bare minimum, people have a safe, affordable place to call home, and that's what this bond is about, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. And with that, I'd like to introduce the president of the Board of Supervisors, who has been a real champion for affordable housing, Supervisor Norman Yee.
Good afternoon. As Mayor Bree said, we're going to need all your support to get this bond measure passed. And if you're going to support it, raise your hands. Thank you. I think we won. I'm President Norman Yee, supervisor in Board of Supervisors, and I really want to thank many, many people, but I think Mayor Bree did a great job in acknowledging our community co-chairs. They did a splendid job. They brought many of these people that are standing behind me right now and many other people to come together and have a discussion about how do we utilize this bond measure to actually make a difference in people's lives. And what they came up with, the recommendations and so forth, I believe they did the trick. Thank you very much. You know, Mayor Bree talks about all the categories of what we're going to do with the bond funding, and it basically wasn't, it seems easy when it comes out of Mayor Bree's mouth that we could do these things, but it's not that easy because these are bold initiatives that we're taking. We're saying, let's stop doing the things that we used to do because it's somehow not reaching our folks that are actually living here, that built the city, and we want to make sure the people that built the city continues to be our residents in San Francisco. We cannot say goodbye, you built the city. And I think that's been happening long enough. It's time to stop that bleeding of people that actually were living here, that built the city, that made it what it is, and for us as a city to support these people. So when we talk about all the different categories, is there enough money in this bond measure? Absolutely not. $500 million is a lot of money, but it's not enough. and we need to think of how to leverage it. That's where the boldness comes. We can't just say spend it and that's it. No, let's go look at the state funding. I was really pleasantly surprised or pleased when I went to DC last week, and every representative I spoke with, whether it's Senator Feinstein, whether it's Nancy Pelosi's office or Congresswoman Jackie Speer, each one of them started the discussion with saying, the federal government needs to do something about some of these issues, about homelessness, about affordable housing, about transportation. I've never heard that discussion before in DC. So they're even recognizing that this is a national crisis. And guess what? San Francisco is not going to wait for the federal government. We're going to do it by ourselves for now, and hopefully the state and federal government will understand that they, once again, need to follow San Francisco, right?
Right.
I want to say having this press conference here is so super appropriate. Affordable senior housing. It's one of the things that I've been pushing for us to focus on. We did some focus years back, but we lost some of that focus. We need to figure out how do we keep our seniors in our communities instead of, oh no, I got evicted. Oh no, I got to go live in Modesto now or something. And that's what's happening to a lot of people, or go to Antioch or whatever. And what we need is to have the seniors who have lived here, many of them, most of them, actually most of all their lives, we want to make sure that they can continue living here in San Francisco. So that's why having the press conference here is so ideal, because now with Mayor Bree and the rest of the committee saying, you know, something we need to focus, put $90 million in there in the bond measure and make sure that we do something for the seniors. And is it enough? Once again, none of the money is enough, but it's a start. And I want to say that the people that came to the meetings that talked about senior housing were really spot on. They gave data and saying, look what's happening. We're losing our seniors. We're not building enough for our seniors. So I'm glad that myself and Mayor Bree really heard that. And thank you again, Mayor Bree, for really listening to our community in terms of what the needs are. And one last thing, I think Mayor Bree said it already, but I have to say this again. In the past, we've always thought about affordable housing as just being for the lowest income. And we still need to continue to support that. We need to support that. But guess what? Middle-income people are being pushed out like low-income people, so we need to start addressing that. And this bond begins to do that, so thank you very much, folks. One thing that we realize that in the past, we've never really considered housing as an infrastructure issue, like maybe our parks or our public buildings or our bridges or our roads. Those are considered traditional capital planning infrastructure needs. Guess what? It's a new day. The leaders around you, the people out here, believe that housing, affordable housing in particular, is an infrastructure issue. So we are committed to looking at how we could not just do one bond measure, but to continue an effort to put housing, affordable housing bond measures in the near future as a series of bond measures. So I hope you will support that. And in the meantime, if you're not registered, make sure you register. As Mayor Bree said, this is not going to be an easy win. We need every one of you to support. We need every one of you to tell your neighbors what good this is going to do. Thank you very much. So next up is your favorite supervisor, Supervisor Brown, in your own district right here. Supervisor Brown.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome to District 5. And to everyone that lives here, thank you for letting us have this meeting and this press conference in your home. It's And a lot of times when I think of Willie B. Kennedy, I think it was almost mythical when we were talking about this years ago when I was a legislative aide and then Supervisor Breed's office. This was coming, and we were really excited. But one of the things that we were worried about is who's going to be able to live here, the neighborhood. How could they live here? So I want to give Kathy Davis a shout out here. She came to us, yes. Kathy came to us and said neighborhood preference. So we took on that battle, and not only did we pass it at the city level, but we also had to, as Mayor Breed talked about, pass it at the national level. And we were all behind her, pushing her through the halls of the federal government and HUD. But what was amazing is we did it. And what I think is amazing is this was the first site. But just about a couple months ago, we had a hearing at City Hall, and I sat on the government audit and oversight. And we actually talked about, was neighborhood preference working? And they said, yes, it's working. And to me, being part of the legislative branch for quite a while, to hear something that you worked on actually is working is pretty amazing, because a lot of times you hear, it's not working. So just really wanted to give that message out there. But this housing crisis that we're facing today, it not only threatens our culture, it threatens our economy. Today in District 5 that we're in, it's quite, I'm going to describe this wealth gap that we have here. I have people here that are making $50,000 a year, and I have people that are making over $150,000 a year, right in these few blocks. About 4 blocks down, I have people that are making $12,000 a year. How do we live that way? How can we live in this wide equity gap? And I know Mayor Breed touched on it, but we need to start talking about this more. We need to put this up in front and say we cannot have this kind of equity gap in this city. This is not San Francisco, where we have the most vulnerable people not have that help, not have that resources going into housing. So this is something that we need to start talking about. I'm talking about it, and I really hope that you talk about it also, because it's something that we need to fix. And this city depends not only on our janitors, our people, our bartenders after a hard day, but also our teachers, our Muni drivers, and all the different other people that make this city run and make this a city that we want to live in. And they all need housing. I cannot go to a meeting in District 5 without people talking about housing, whether they live in public housing and making sure that they have the public housing, that it is fixed and it's a great place to live, or and we were talking about the small site program, buying buildings, existing buildings that tenants live in, and keeping those preserved, preservation for tenants. We're just right now bought a unit, a building for 9 units on Schrader. It was already Ellis Act. I think 4 or 5 people left, and the 4 people that were left were low-income seniors. Those seniors are going to have a building. They can stay there, and there'll be 5 affordable units. This is so important. This is how we can also save people in their neighborhoods that they love, that they've actually weaved themselves in the fabric of that neighborhood. They should be able to stay. So buying existing buildings with tenants in it is a priority. Now, 100% affordable, we all want it. I have 5 sites right now in District 5, 4 in Hayes Valley, 1 that we bought about a year ago, the old McDonald's site in Haight-Ashbury. They're all 100% affordable, but there was no money to build them. So now with this bond, we have an opportunity to build 100% affordable, to also build, have units in there that people that make low income, very low income, could get into this housing. It is so important. And we're right, and you're right. This is a 2/3 vote. That means almost everybody in this room is going to have to vote for it. So I bet you need to be registered, and most of your neighbors are going to have to vote for it. We're going to be on the campaign trail, making sure that everybody knows about this and votes. All these people behind me are housing advocates from all different areas, and they are here because they believe in this. And I want to thank President Yee for stepping up for the Board of Supervisors to say we have to do this. And I want to thank the mayor for knowing this is a housing crisis and we can't just do the same old thing because it's not working. And I want to thank all of you because you're going to be our soldiers. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Brown. Now I want to introduce one of the co-chairs who helped to facilitate our community process to develop the bond, Malcolm Young.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. Thank you, President Yee. I also just want to again acknowledge our community co-chairs, Annie Chung from Self-Help for the Elderly, Myrna Melgar from Jamestown, and we got Tamika Moss from Hamilton. I'm horrible with names. So I'm not up here to remind you that this is the biggest bond that we're ever going to put on the ballot. I'm not here to remind you that it's the biggest apportionment ever for public housing to repair and rebuild it. I'm not here to remind you that it's the first time and the only time the city has set aside money to create more senior housing. I'm not here to remind you that this bond is going to keep people in place through a small sites acquisition fund. I'm not even here to remind you that this bond is going to help middle income folks like teachers own homes in the city, and Shaman also said him too. So I want to point out something else. I want everyone in this room just to take a look at each other, right? Take a look at each other. The diversity of people in this room is going to be what makes this bond unique. The diversity of support that we're going to have for this bond is what is going to make this bond unique. Now, I'm an affordable houser. I work at Chinatown Community Development Center. I got a bunch of colleagues in the room, like Doug Shoemaker from Mercy over there, and Gail Gilman from CHP, and Caroline Fang from Meta, and Randy Shaw from THC, and Sam Moss right there, and Don Falk back there, and Pauline from McCormick in the back, and Jack Gardner from John Stewart. Now, we build housing, so this is what we do for a living. What I think is incredible is all the non-housers in this room, all the leaders who are not from housing organizations, because they recognize that they serve people in this city. But in order for them to continue serving those people, we need to make this city more affordable. And that's what this bond is going to do. So I'm going to make a very, very bold prediction, because I'm not a politician. I'm not running for anything, so I can say this. This group, we're going to get 11 votes at the Board of Supervisors. Right, Norman? Oh, President Yee, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. We will get there. We will get there. And not only are we going to pass this bond, we're going to pass it with 100% of the votes in the city. Right, Tamika? All right. So this is going to be the biggest bond ever, and it's going to be the best bond ever, and we're going to have fun with each other as we get this thing passed and moved through the Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Mayor Breed. Thank you, President Yee.
Thank you. I also want to recognize Maddie Scott, a leader in our community, and don't worry, we haven't forgotten about Freedom West. Well, I want to take this opportunity to introduce someone who grew up in Sunnydale and has an amazing story to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brianna Fierson.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Brianna Frierson, and I'm a Hope SF Sunnydale resident. I want to paint a picture for you, so I need y'all to really be into it. Imagine you're going home after a long day at work, and you expecting to relax. But instead, when you get there, you're bombarded by issues that have risen throughout the day. Today, your water heater is busted, and you will not get to take a hot shower for 4 days. Tomorrow, because of faulty pipes, feces come up through your kitchen sink, leaving your kitchen unusable for at least a week. And every day thereafter, you and your family are living with mold and mildew. This is the story of my community. This is the story of my family. This is what we live through every day. And every day, my mom has guaranteed us that we will be different. We will live in a different place. Everything will change for us. Resources for this neighborhood and our community is not something that we want. It's something that we need. And we all know the difference between a want and a need. I want it means like, I can live without it. But we actually need it. Typically, when people look at low-income neighborhoods, they think of people who are lazy or caught up in extreme illegal activity. However, this is not always true. I look and I see a family, my family. I see a mother who works, a mother who has a college graduate, a mother who has another daughter in school and in college. And I see a mother who has a junior in high school who has managed to maintain a 4-point GPA throughout her matriculation while working for her community. I look in my neighborhood and I see plenty of entrepreneurs who are growing their businesses out of their homes, and yet they are expecting to grow their families and get them out of there. Today, I do want to thank Mayor Breed for consistently supporting neighborhoods such as mine and not letting us always fall through the cracks, because our communities do need this housing bond now more than ever. So thank you.
All right. You know why we need it? You know what must be done. The Board of Supervisors, we're counting on you to get this bond through. The voters of San Francisco, we're counting on you to turn out and to vote for this bond. It is so important, and as President Yee said, this is one of the largest bonds, but it also needs to be a consistent track of bonds that come behind it so that we can do better around building more affordable housing for people in our city. I'm committed to it. All the folks behind me are committed to it, and I really appreciate you all being here today. And so thank you so much for your time, and I just can't wait to see the smiles on the people's faces as we break ground, as we cut the ribbons, as we move people in, as we load up their furniture, just like what happened here at Willie B. Kennedy Apartments. We can make magic happen for so many people around San Francisco. We're gonna make magic happen because of each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here today.